Welcome to Parents Make a Difference. I am your host, Josie PV. Many parents are concerned about their child's mental health. Did you know Canada is ranked third in regards to youth suicides? 42% of Ontario students have used an illicit substance in the last year. That is just under a half of all students. Do these statistics concern you? Are you worried about a child who is anxious or depressed? That it can spiral down to being more? What should you do? Today's guest is a friend of mine, Rose Stabile McIlravey. She has been through some of these struggles with her son Jordan. According to Rose, these struggles turned him to drugs. With much sadness, he has passed away at age 26. This is a mom who's willing to share her story, believing that her son's life story might help someone, which might be you. Thank you, Rose, for joining us on Parents Make a Difference.
Thanks, Josie, for having me.
Tell us about your son, Jordan, some of his qualities, his characteristics that you remember most when he was young, even before becoming anxious.
Oh, he was such a, he had a good disposition. He was happy. He was very funny, even as a child. He made everybody laugh. Like he was a really good kid. Like he was charismatic and just all wonderful, good thoughts. And I remember him as a child, not difficult in any way.
When did you first realize something was going on with him?
In his last year of high school, for first semester seemed to be fine, and even going through school, he had average to good grades. Really didn't have any trouble in school until his last semester of high school. Things seemed to take a turn. I'm not really sure what caused that turning point, but his anxiety was so great that he was sick to his stomach in the morning. He often couldn't make it to school at all, or never made it to school on time because it was difficult for him to get up. And stomach issues that were never resolved. Like we'd gone to the doctors and couldn't find what it was, but I think it was the anxiety that was knotting up in his stomach that he just couldn't function.
Do you think he was putting too much pressure on himself? Did you get any signs or any?
Yeah, and no, I didn't see any of that for sure. Like I didn't see it. I didn't even realize that he had been taking drugs for a while before I realized that he was. Like I guess he hid it really well, but then he came to me one day and said, this is what's been happening. I'm trying to get off and I can't. So that's where we started the process of trying to help him, because it's hard to see that in a teenager, because teenagers act radical anyways, even the best of them, right? Yeah. So it's really difficult to decide or to determine, is this happening? Is something really terrible happening, or is this just regular teenage stuff that's happening, right? It's difficult, but I think probing deeper is probably a good idea. Just even if you think it's regular teenage stuff, just don't dismiss it.
What were you going through at the time when this was going on? Like, what was happening in your life? Was it very busy? Was it
well, I have to say my life's always been busy. It's just my nature. If I did teach for Redken, so I was on the road quite a bit and ran a salon, so I was busy. But even I had such good communication with Jordan that even when I was away, like people that worked with me when I was away, it's like, oh, Jordan's calling, so we talked like 3 times a day. Like we were always connected. Mm-hmm. And I think he leaned on me a lot. So even when I was away, I was there for him.
Did you have this before he came to you about the, trying to get off of the substance?
Yeah, we've had a good open relationship for sure. I think I don't like when they're a kid, they're different, right? When they start to become an adult, that's when, they're either going to talk to you or they're not, right? As a kid, you can always find ways to get what you need out of them, right? Like information, but as an adult, then it's their choice what they share with you more so.
And
So
you to share.
developing that strong communication is really important at that point.
Yeah, it's I'm sure all of us parents miss a lot of things that are going on in our kids' life. Whether it's our busyness, I know I've missed things, and it's like later it says, "Oh my goodness, I wish I talked more, or probed them more, ask questions more. We get so busy with life, right? I'm sure we all do that. We will never know everything that's going on in their head, right?
True.
Well, as a mother, how did you deal with this? Like, what are some of the things you did or said?
Well, I'll have to tell you, it wasn't easy. It was probably the most difficult part of my life, short of losing him. It was really trying. It was really trying. Every day is trying. But I started meditating about 3 years ago, and I think that kept me grounded. And almost have to remove yourself from the situation. Like, you can't live it for them. You can't solve it all for them, and you have to. It's like, okay, this is the analogy that I think of when I think of how I handled it. You have to take care of yourself. Like, when you're on a plane and the oxygen mask drops, you have to put it on first before you help someone else. And if I let myself fall apart and fall into all the struggles that he was facing, then I was no good to him or anybody else. So just looking after yourself and your mental state of mind is first and foremost. And otherwise you can't help them. So I just had to keep myself as strong as I possibly could.
So you used meditation for that, you were saying?
I did, yes. I think if I hadn't discovered meditation, I don't think I'd be the person I am today. I don't think I could function on having lost him. I don't think I could function at all. Like, I think I would just be in a dark room and fall apart. It's too painful.
And I know you had shared with me how some of the things that you had said to him, and how you were supporting him throughout this. And can you share with our audience, with our parents, what you did, things you said to him as you were going through this?
Right. It's just really just being supportive, and especially once, like I said, once we're adults, it's more difficult even to help them. If you can catch this early, like as early as possible, and help them through it when they're still younger. Once they become adults, then it's difficult because their choices are their own, and you can't force any choices on them. All you can do is support them through the choices, and just be there as a support and as a keep them grounded as best you can. Like, and I said before, like, just not being judging, because like I said, they're already ashamed of their situation, and casting judgment on them will just make it worse. It'll shut them off, and then they won't share. As painful as it was to hear all the things that, like, he would tell me how he feels and how he can't do certain things and how he just wants to feel normal. I was happy to have that open communication so I could somehow get a glimpse into what he was experiencing. Whereas if I had been judgmental and authoritative to him, then I wouldn't have got any of that, and I would still be dumbfounded as to what the heck happened.
Yeah. What kind of things were making him anxious?
It's simple things. Like, it's simple things. Like, someone who suffers from anxiety, it doesn't take a monstrous thing to trigger their anxiety. As simple as calling the doctor to make an appointment, or even going to a doctor's appointment. I went to all his appointments with him. Sometimes just leaving the house would cause anxiety. Like, it wasn't any one thing. It was just life in general.
And this happened
every day. Yeah, every day was a struggle for him. Every day of life was a struggle for him.
He said he had a lot of humor.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and the people that knew him outside of our home here, just like, he made people laugh, and he did it naturally. He didn't try. He just naturally made people laugh. He loved comedians. He watched all comedians, and he was always, if there's a new person in the room, he would invite them into the conversation, make them feel comfortable. And especially if there was a shy person, he would always zero in on that person and make them feel welcome. And because he was like this, it was hard for people to know, like, no, like they didn't even know, like even, some of my closest relatives said they didn't know that he was like that because it didn't show. Like they hide behind like a shield of or a mask what they put out, because I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
it's what's happening internally. It's not what you see. Sometimes it's really hard. And sometimes, if you don't have that communication, you as a parent wouldn't even see that because you see what everybody else sees.
That's right.
You
That's right.
keeping the lines of communication open is the first and foremost. And by doing that, you just have to be very, very supportive.
How did your husband deal with it?
I still dealing with it. He, I think it's a relationship between a father and a son. I think is different in the sense of um, fathers expect more out of their sons and are a little bit harder on them,
Mhm.
right? So they had a love-hate relationship sometimes, but I mean they loved each other for sure, but they did have uh, disagreements and caused them both anxiety um, when that happened. And you know my husband just expected more out of him than Jordan could give.
At the time, yeah. I know at one
Yeah,
point you said that your husband was his hero, though.
yeah, growing up for sure. And yeah, he was the, I mean, I used to be the cool parent until we went to Universal and Brad went on the scary roller coaster, instantly became the cool dad.
What about his brother? How was he affected by all of this?
Well, it's hard to say right now because he's not as open with me. He moved out. He's been moved out for, I don't know, eight years or so. So um, he's not as open. So I don't really know. I don't think he's probably struggles. I'm sure he struggles with it, but he's more closed.
I think, yeah, personalities, right? Some
Yeah,
a little more and some put up a wall, right?
yeah,
It's up to us though to try to to melt that wall down, right? To try to break it down so that the communication, so we can have more communication and maybe we can. I like the way you said on a non-judgmental basis to be there for them, right? As
exactly.
in the world, I think there are too many people that we're just judging each other, right? And really, they always say, unless you walked in their shoes, you wouldn't know. There was a story, I don't know if you ever heard this one, of this man. He was on the bus and um, he had his kids with him. They were all young and they were bopping around from seat to seat. And there wasn't too many people on the bus, but this woman was just looking at us thinking, well, this man, I mean, he should discipline his kids. Like, you know, and it's like, what does he do? He's not doing anything. Look at these kids, they're all over the place. And then at one point, she approached him and he looks at his kids. He goes, "Oh, my kids. I know they're everywhere." But he goes, "We just came from the hospital and my wife just passed away." And it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, she just her her mouth dropped. And that story to me taught me a lesson of being being less judgmental, not judging.
Yeah,
You don't know what that person's going through. And in the world, I think that's what we need more of. We need
absolutely.
less judgmental. Like you said, you did it with not being judgmental. You tried to walk through it with him, but not judging him and saying, well, you should not be going through this. You should, this is easy to go to the doctors or whatever it was, right? You're like, here,
Hmm.
I'll come with you. And you walked with them because I'm sure now you would have regrets. I should have did this, I should have did that, right? And in the way you
Exactly.
and at least you can say, I was loving him. I was opening my arms to him, opening the communication, and you can be proud of yourself
Yeah.
because of that, right?
I mean, I mean, some of the advice that I'd get from the small group of people that knew would be, why don't you just throw him out? Why would you put up with that? And it's like, how could I? If I did that, how could I live with myself now? I don't think he would have even made it as far as he did had I done that, right? I don't think sending them out to fend for themselves, I don't think that's the answer. I think in those situations, they need you more than ever.
You're right. You're right. They need to know they're loved, because that's saying it's you're trying to do the right thing. I understand people who do throw out their kids. They're just grasping at an answer and saying, oh, maybe this
Yeah,
will get him into gear. But I find that love is more powerful than that. I have a friend who the their daughter's boyfriend was on drugs. And so that's what his parents did. They threw him out. And these people, this friend of mine and her husband, did something that most people wouldn't do. They took him in and they just loved on him. And they just said, you know what? They tried to help him see who he could be by loving him and by accepting him and by
yeah,
creating some boundaries, but doing that, and he changed. He changed
that's
because
amazing.
and that was a hard thing to think your daughter's going out with someone who's on drugs. You don't want that for your daughter. But they did what most people wouldn't do, right? They tried not
Hmm.
to judge and to love him, just like that's what you did, right? And I mean, when he passed away at 26, your son, I mean, they said that it was something dealing with his heart at this point, we thought, right?
Yeah,
We don't know when anyone's going to leave, really.
exactly.
Right. Whatever was the reason that he passed, we just don't know. Any of us can pass at any time, and we don't know. And we need to do what we can today to help them.
Just treat everybody in your life, everyone you come across, with love and compassion. And like you said, you don't know what they're going through. If someone's nasty to you in the grocery store, like, you know who knows what they've been going through or what's brought them to that point. Obviously things aren't hunky-dory in their life, or they wouldn't be that way. And just have to meet people where they're at, rather than um, judge them for where they're at.
Yeah, I had a conversation with one of my sons. He was saying this girl was really, really mean to him. And I was saying, we don't know what she's going through. Maybe her parents are divorcing at the moment. Maybe this, maybe that. I just put some hypothetical things. And then days later, he came to me and he goes, yeah, mom, her parents are divorcing. And I said, see, we just don't know. We don't know what they're going through. Through this, what have you learned from this that you think would help other parents? If you had to go do it again, anything you would change, or things that you feel that you did right, like being less judgmental. Like I think that
Yeah,
was
there's
definitely doing right.
there's that. And just just take care of yourself, get help for yourself if you need it, because it's a difficult journey to walk. And you need to have some support for yourself too. Get some get I actually hadn't got help, but I did at some point. No, I did see somebody at some point. I got to a point where I just was overwhelmed and it was just too much, and I did go see somebody for a short time. um, but if you can find a good therapist to help you through it, then you'll be better equipped to help your kids. There's no
Absolutely.
shame in getting help.
No, there isn't actually. It should be something you're proud of because you're strong enough to seek help, right? If
Hmm.
we're so weak, we don't seek anything. But when we gain some strength, we go out and we look for help because we're fighting. We're fighting. And so I see that as a strength, actually. Our offline conversation, you talked about how being moving into your spiritual side, gaining some strength from your spirituality was important.
Yeah, yeah, and that started with meditation and just grounding myself each day, and I still do it to this day. I'll do it morning and night, and it just I don't know, it just helps in every area of life, really. And just dealing with any type of struggles I have, I just find peace in meditation. It's a time where I'm at peace no matter what else is happening in my life. I, excuse me, managed to find peace in that, 15 to 30 minutes that I sit quietly by myself and, call upon my higher self to guide me into what I should do, or give me some inspiration of where I need to take my life.
I truly believe that um, uh, that's been what has carried me on through all my struggles and helped me overcome is the spiritual side, because I don't think I could live life without that. That has given me strength. That has helped me overcome, um, knowing that there is something bigger, greater, knowing that there's a God out there who loves me and loves you, and that has inspired me to get through the toughest of times. And so I encourage people to move into a direction of their faith, to move, to seek it out, because I don't know how I would live without it. To be quite honest, I think that is the most important thing in my life. I can only share about my experience, but I'm so glad that it helped. It's helping you to move through this, because that is very difficult. But I know that you're going to use the story.
Yeah, anything I can do to help, I'm more than happy to share, or someone just needs to talk about, if they're going through and they just need somebody to talk to, that understands what they're going through, I'd be here for that.
I know you encourage for people to get help, because you were saying it was taking a long time for you to get professional help for Jordan,
Hmm.
and not to wait that long, right? So I think it's so important that we seek out. There's helplines. There's, you know, uh, people have maybe they work and they have insurance that they can get services.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there's free helplines out there for kids, for adults, because mental health is really really important. It's really, and there's a lot of people that are struggling with that. I'm so touched by your story, and I thank you, Rose. I really do. I thank you for allowing us into your life, because we are honoring Jordan's life today by allowing his story to help others who might be going through something similar. Did this story empower you to help your child? As parents, we need to fight for our kids. Now is the time to act. Please reach out to a counselor, a pastor, or one of the helplines that are out there available. If you notice that there's a change in a behavior or an attitude in your child, we need to pay more attention, because life gets busy. I do too. I need to pay more attention. I think we all do. And it's great that, Rose, you had that connection later, in life when they're adults. As parents, we need to pay attention. We need to look to see if there's a change, and not just to chuck it up that it's teenage years, right? Um,
Yeah.
or just something going on. So I'm encouraging the parents, please don't delay in getting help, because parents, you make a difference.